Welcome everyone. Welcome to the first official video for the Parrot Project. I'm Jess and this is my son Konya Charlie on my shoulder here. And yeah, today we're looking at chatting about force-free training and force-free interactions. It's going to be part one of a multi-part series just about the different elements of training and what to look out for in your parrot. So force-free training and force-free interactions. So I guess we can go into the basics of what that actually means. If you do a quick Google, there's different variations and different wording, but they all come out to the same thing. Is that you're gaining permission to interact with your animal, and in this case, parrots. Every interaction you have with your animal should be force-free, ideally, and there's ways to look out for that and things to do in the case where they don't want to maybe interact with you at the moment, but you need to interact with them for a variety of different reasons, be it for their safety or let's say a veterinary appointment, etc. The concept of force-free training, and this is across the board, be it parrots, dogs, cats, giraffes. I have seen a giraffe be part of force-free training, and so the idea is literally, so it's interactions or training that doesn't involve any sort of negative, any punishment, so we don't like whipping or those sorts of things. Obviously we're not going to do that with birds, but any negativity in terms of your interaction. So yelling, parrots yelling is probably actually a reinforcement, but that's another story altogether. Yelling at a dog, for example, is a negative thing. With parrots, putting them in their cage if they're being loud, covering them if they're loud, those sorts of things. Those are actually negative aspects to training. Also, no sort of pushing their boundaries, I guess, is another way of putting it. So imposing yourself on them, even though they're tolerated, it's not ideal. So that's what force-free training is all about, really. And we try and have that in every single interaction we do on a day-to-day basis with our animals. And I'll go through some of examples with those as well. Parrots, I guess the thing is that force-free interactions does involve us having an understanding of what our parrot is telling us. And so essentially it's a case of having an understanding if our animals want to actually interact with us initially. So there's several steps to that. So one of the steps is the approach, which I'll try and get a video for you guys. Most people approach their animals and parrots initially in an enclosure or a cage of some sort. And so it's when you're in that approach, you can start assessing, are they moving away from you? Are they starting to fly around their cage? Those sorts of things. That tells you your animal is not comfortable around you. And so therefore any sort of further interaction is going to be forceful. So, and that's a whole different kettle of fish in terms of trying to get your bird comfortable with you. But that approach, you need to start assessing whether or not that animal wants to be in your presence, I guess. And that's an interaction. Does your animal want to be around you initially? Are they scared of you? Are they not having a great day? All those sorts of things. So that approach initially is a big part of assessing whether or not your animal wants to be part of this interaction. And so if your animal shows that they're comfortable around you as you're approaching them, be it in an enclosure, a stand, whatever else, then we go into the sort of interaction that you're wanting to do with them on a day-to-day basis. Do you want them to step up for you? Do you want them to do a trick for you? All those sorts of things. And then that's another further assessment. Do they want to be part of that? Generally speaking, this is my experience with my parrots. If I get quite close to them, if they start walking away, which they do, my parrots know me, so they don't flutter everywhere, that sort of thing. They just tend to move away from me when they don't want to be involved with me. And I take that as okay, today's not a day to interact with them. And the next step really is hands. Hands tend to be the next step of whether or not a bird wants to be part around you. And now this is a big part of whether or not gaining your bird's trust. Hands and the way we handle birds with our hands, be it stepping up, grabbing them, all those sorts of things, is what is going to form your trust and your bond with your bird. It is a huge, huge part. Please do not underestimate how big a part this is. You look at this. So Charlie knows I'm not going to hurt her, but you look at my hands. They're huge. They're huge in the size of her body. So it'd be like having a giant having hands as big as us, grabbing us. Like, you'd be like... So try and put that into the concepts every time you're actually approaching your bird. So the step up. So when we're talking, so that there's other elements of training, which is positive reinforcement and target training, which is another video altogether. But if we're just talking about the step up, some birds will step up for you if they're well trained already. They'll step up without any sort of further invite to needing to be using any other tools. And assessing that is a big part. So, e.g., she doesn't want to step up for me. She doesn't want anything to do with my hands. She knows the minute I do that and that's her way of saying no to me. No, I'm not interested. She'll fly away. She'll go somewhere else. And I've respected that decision. He goes back there. Step up. And she's decided that she's happy to step up for me and she's staying with me. There was a little hesitation there, just letting you know. I guess I can maybe pause that video. There was a hesitation where she was like, I think I'm going to fly. But I kept steady there, and then she made the decision that, yes, she wants to be on my hand. Now, if I needed her to step up, we would be looking at something else. And that's, once again, another part of the video. But from a force-free interaction, I did nothing there to force her to be part of that interaction. And she's sitting there being very happy and grooming. So I'll pop her back. You want to go back? Step up. Good girl. Another aspect of force-free training. She stepped up willingly. She didn't want to step up. She'd do things like calling up my arm. She'd fly somewhere else. Indications that she didn't want to be part of that specific interaction. So it's just all about reading that behaviour, really. Those are some of the examples of ways to read your animal, of whether or not they want to be part of that. I will start probably posting some reels on Instagram about showing sort of one-offs of like, this is what it looks like when a bird doesn't want to be part of it, and this is what it looks like when it does. Because obviously Charlie's a very tame sun conure. She would let me hold her if I wanted to, all those sorts of things. So I think for a lot of people who are beginners, this is a bit unfair to sort of show this as being the way to train. In terms of forceful interaction, so let's say we have a bird that does tolerate being around us. There's certain elements that an animal will do, or a parrot will do, to tell you, bugger off, I'm not interested. Moving away is the obvious. If they've got the room to, they'll move away from you or fly away from you. For some parrots, and this happens a lot with birds, well, not always, but it can happen with birds that have been rehomed, who have already had experiences with hands and not so great interactions with people, that they will stay there, but they will open up their beak on the idea that they're going to bite. Now, that in itself, before we even get to near that, is telling us, stop. So, for example, if we had a bird on this perch right here, so I see this with sun conures a fair bit, and it's not saying that sun conures are, no bird's aggressive. Like using labels in general is a no-go, because it labels that bird as X and nothing's going to change that. So labels are a big thing that I don't like, and which I've been taught not to use, and I very much agree with that, because any bird with the right training can turn around, essentially. So let's say we had an example. We had a bird here. They're tolerating my presence, that sort of thing. And we go to put our hand there, and they don't really move anywhere. They just stand there. You just like, they're not really giving an indication of whether or not they're wanting to be part of that or not. So we put our hand up, and they just keep on standing there, and they don't go to step up and that sort of thing. Do not do this. Do not. Biggest no-no. Do not push into them. Do not push into them. That creates a situation where you have forced an interaction with that bird. Do not do that. That is the quickest way to lose trust in animals. And they might tolerate it once, they might tolerate it twice. There'll be a point though where they won't tolerate it anymore, and then you've broken your trust with that animal. So biggest no, none of this, if you can avoid it. Another thing is grabbing a bird. So some people might go grab their bird. also a big no. That's just promoting the concept of bad behavior, or not bad, sorry, not bad behavior. I won't use bad behavior. They'll promote that hands are grabby, the things that aren't liked. Now, once again, this is a general statement. There are birds who love being held. Lorikeets are one of those. I love being held and squeezed and played with and that sort of thing. And if you've got that relationship with your parrot, so be it. But if you get behavioural issues, that's one thing I generally advise, is not to start grabbing a bird unless you've got a fantastic relationship with them. Starting out with a bird and you had them for a week, grabbing him is the biggest no-no, and it just starts off as a really bad basis for any interaction at all throughout whenever. So you interact with them, put them somewhere else, they're going to be like, I don't like you. So we stop that. That kind of gives you some basics of what force-free interaction is. I'll hopefully have some examples, better examples essentially, for you guys soon enough. Hopefully my little demonstrations here and showing a little bit with my son Conure Charlie helps. I guess a bit of a caveat, shoulders are generally a bit of a no-no, and I'll go into the reason why overall. I do let Charlie on my shoulder, and there's a reason why for that. Generally speaking, shoulders are a big no-no for birds, and I'll go into the detail of what that is, mostly for that push-up, that what I was telling you beforehand, the pushing into the bird. People do that, and that creates e.g., she doesn't hurt, she went to bite me. So that's exactly what I am talking about, the reason why you don't have shoulders. I'm hoping that's given you some basics. That I think is a good start. I'll probably be posting some reels both on YouTube as well as Instagram, showing some of the everyday interactions I have with my bird. Like I've said previously, I've got a couple of clients that I'll hopefully have shortly enough that I'll be able to help with, and have some videos very shortly. Fingers crossed. It will depend on how those training sessions go, whether or not it's something I'm going to be wanting to use, but overall, yeah, it's hopefully get some really good footage for you all. Until next time, hopefully episode 2 will be a bit more about diet, which I'll go into a bit more detail about. Until then, thank you very much. This is the Parrot Project, and thank you very much for watching. Cheers.